IVM.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast supported by Pragati, a flagship media initiative of the Takshashila Institution. We're a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like to bring a fresh perspective to Indian affairs and an Indian perspective to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. My name is Arjun, and today I have with me Megha, and we're going to talk about something interesting, that is with respect to China. And what we're going to talk about today is China's technical standardization strategy. But before we get into the episode, I just wanted to mention about the courses that the Takshashila Institution offers. If you're interested in subjects like China, defense, policy, and foreign policy related topics, you can always check out our courses at school.takshashila.org.in. Now, getting back to the episode, we are here to talk about China's technical standardization strategy. We had already done an episode on the geopolitics of international standards and why they are important and how they can manage to influence the economic and geopolitical trends across the world. And it was in October that China came out with their own document, which is basically like a guideline document called as the National Standardization Development Outline. So this is the first document which China and the Chinese government has released with regard to technical standardization. So we want to delve deep into it and figure out why they're focusing on it. So, depending upon how we look at China's history in standardization, it has gradually evolved over the years. So, they've maintained a presence in the standard setting domain, and they're trying to increase their presence in recent years. Standards in China, especially, are coordinated by SAC, which is the Standardization Administration of China. And they also have a National Institute of Standardization, which plays a pivotal role in the research and development of technical standards. And the original law which governed standardization in China was in 1989, which was a long time back. And it was complex, bureaucratic, and this resulted in like almost 150,000 standards being created. And the process for getting these standards approved was very, very concentrated with the central government, and it kind of was very bureaucratic in nature. So in 2015, the State Council kind of decided to reform the standardization process in the country. So they wanted to create like a new technical standardization law to improve the whole process of setting standards. So they sought counsel from representatives of other national standard bodies from the US, UK, Germany, to just to incorporate the best practices for setting and promoting these tech standards. The new standardization law came into effect in 2018. So that kind of changed the whole landscape of technical standardization in the country. So what it basically sought to do was to combine the state control and market initiative to drive forward the technical standard setting process. So based off all that history, there was this report last year in 2020 that China is now planning what is called as the China 2035 Standards Project. This was just a report which was in the media, and it was talked about quite a bit, especially in the Western media. But there was no official document by the State Council or the government on regard to this project. So we did not have much to talk about until October, when they actually released the NSD outline document. So that was what kind of sets the balls rolling in the 2035 project, and it kind of sets the guidelines for how China should approach the technical standard setting process and how it can manage to influence the standard setting across the world. So To know more about this particular document, Megha is here with me, and she has read through the entire document, and she has kind of outlined what is the Chinese government's plan of action, and what they aspire to do, and what are the key takeaways that we can get from these reports. So, Megha, can you just tell us about this outline document which the Chinese government have released, and what can we expect from it?
Hi, Arjun. Thanks for this wonderful introduction. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Chinese government State Council came with this document in October. Before that, there was, of course, a lot of deliberation and working groups and all set of activities. So, first thing which I want to highlight that this document is, as it said, is just an outline. It's one document in this set of larger interconnected, strategies to do a lot of things. And this is just one cog in that whole machinery of Chinese government to achieve their goals in this China Standards 2035 project. Yeah, but it does give it official authenticity to this project. So there are different sections. First, there are development goals, and then different sections which talk about rural revitalization, green development, and goals to develop technology industry and etc. So, for example, one of the development goal is that the ratio of the common technology and applied science technology from the project, it should reach more than 50%. So there are a lot of different goals, lofty goals like that. Then I will divide some of the things in mentioned in the outline on two levels. Like one is national level efforts, and then there are international level efforts. So, for example, on national level, they want larger enterprises to take lead in the standard setting process. They want both central and provincial level governments to participate more actively, like bring out policies, incentivize small and medium enterprises, also incentivizes companies to follow standards or participate in this whole process. Then they want to build this standard national digital standardized library and this public service platform so that it's easier for people to know which standard is there for which what thing. Then they want to attract talents. To do that, there's mention again of financial and other incentives, but of course since this is just an outline, there are no details of what exactly they are going to do. On international level, what they want basically is to Chinese firms to participate in this standard proposal processes, or basically in international standard setting bodies. They want them to participate there, innovate, and then increase their footprint in these bodies, and then cooperate and collaborate with international bodies. So one of the things which I think I observed was it's going to be a two-way process. I mean, of course, they want that Chinese standard should be followed internationally, but they also want to standardize their own industry so that their industry is basically aligned with international standards. So it's a two-way process. Key takeaway, I think, would be what they basically want to do is build upon this Made in China 2025 project. So MIC 2025 was basically about developing some 10 core sectors and an industrialization of this modernization of these industries. With this, they want to go a step forward and standardize whatever they are doing. Basically, every process. So, if you read this document, it feels like you're reading everything under the sun. They will talk about everything from developing research and development, critical and emerging technologies, AI, quantum, biotechnology, green technologies, and rural revitalization. Everything is there. So, in short, it just feels like they want their hands on everything, and they're going to revolutionize everything. But of course, as we'll talk later, there are limitations to what they want to do and how they want to do it. Another key takeaway is, of course, they want to increase the international footprint. So it's also mentioned that they want to improve the level of standardization and opening to outside world. That means that they want, again, as I mentioned, on international level, they want to increase their footprint in bodies. Then there's also mention about urban and rural construction. Section 4 talks about standardization guarantee for green development. So again, lofty goals, but we don't know how exactly they are going to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's that's the Chinese government for you. They have set out on these big goals to kind of implant themselves in every sector and set standards in almost every possible sector of the economy. But what I want to focus is on why this is happening now. I mean, this is happening on the back of the pandemic. The pandemic is still going on in the world, and China wasn't kind of hit by the COVID-19 pandemic as much as the others were. At least the economy kind of rebounded faster, and they want to take advantage of this, and maybe that is why they're focusing on pushing forward innovation, tech innovation to set standards. So I'll just so from what I got from reading the document, I kind of have to say that it specifically mentions the role of standards in fostering tech innovation, especially for critical and emerging technologies. So, China also, like every other country, feels the need to remain relevant and updated on using these critical technologies. So, if they control the technical standards for these critical and emerging technologies, that means that they would contribute more to the global economy, and they will have more technical expertise, which would kind of give them geopolitical heft. And as you mentioned, Megha, I mean, this is kind of the next step from MIC to 2025. Even though they are manufacturing powerhouse, China's exports as a share of GDP have halved over the past decade. That is because consumption and domestic consumption has kind of contributed more to the economy, but exports still kind of form a major part of the Chinese economy. So that is why they want to set standards, because if they set technical standards, they might end up getting economic gains in the form of licenses and royalties for certain manufacturing sectors in the world. So the one thing I kind of have noticed and have focused on is how the Chinese government believes that now the strategic and geopolitical game is kind of not limited to market domination, and it's inherently influenced by system design and rule making. And that is what they're doing with these technical standards. There was this quote, I cannot validate it, but it has been said that many Chinese officials have gone on record and said that it is the third tier companies which make products, but it is the first tier companies which set standards. So technical standardization is something that they want to be a leader in, because that means that the world, at least if not even the world, at least half of the world, or their allies, or whoever chooses to use Chinese technology, will follow whatever standards they set. So that is something very important in the current political climate. And as you mentioned, Mega, they also have something related to green development. Now we know that China has a very robust renewable energy sector. They are the leader in solar, EV batteries, and even nuclear power. Now China and the Chinese government sees the 2020 is like an opportune time for a green energy led infrastructure development, because with all the talk about climate, and how it is essential for governments across the world to focus on climate change. So there are specific standards which they are want to focus on, like greenhouse gas emissions, and accounting and reporting of these emissions by different firms, so that they adhere to certain levels of environmental pollution. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I got from why they released this NSD outline document now. It is essential to know that it's still again an outline document, and they have mentioned all these, and it is in 2021 that they have released this document to the world, or at least it is officially released by the government. So while focusing on why they're doing it now, it we must also focus on what are the limitations they have, because frankly speaking, whatever they've said, it is not easy to achieve. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of tech innovation, it takes a lot of geopolitical influence to kind of manage to set standards and influence technical standards in various sectors, as they've mentioned in their own document. So before I can go to Mega about the potential challenges for the Chinese government, I'll just like to take a break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IBM Podcast Network. On this year-end special of Think Fast, Varun and Suchita give their predictions on what lies ahead for the world of business and startups in 2022. We have Manjima Chatterjee with us on Audio Gyan. She is a drama explorer and educator. Kedar and Manjima talk about the new education policy, Bengali plays, and a whole lot more. On a Cock and Bull episode of Cyrus Says, Antrish and I joined Cyrus to discuss New Year resolutions, no restaurant food for cops, and COVID self-tests. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss major events and trends in the tech policy space and their expectations for 2022. On Simplified, the gang looks back at how the last 12 months have passed for them personally. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, do tell a friend. The word of mouth absolutely is essential to us. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms that you've been listening to. And also, I'd like to ask everybody to check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels going. You can find all of them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intel. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to the episode of All Things Policy. So we were talking about how there are certain challenges which China might face when dealing with technical standardization. So Megha, can you just give us the main one or two points that we can understand about why this is not such an easy task and the Chinese government has a long road ahead?
Yeah, so as you said that challenges, one of the main challenge I think would be to actually achieve this in this given timeline, because as the outline suggests, they are literally talking about everything. They want to standardize everything, and it's not humanly possible. At least I believe so, to standardize each and every sector of your economy in such a short time frame. And I think you mentioned that quote that the first tier companies, so first tier companies build standards, and second and third tier companies build technology and products. So I think, yeah, even I have heard that. So again, amount of money and effort or energy which is needed to achieve this kind of project is, monumental. I am a little skeptical about that. Second thing would be pushback. I mean, of course, if China is talking about increasing footprint in international bodies, so I don't think they are going. It's going to be just cakewalk for them, because of course other countries are going to notice, and of course they have already noticed. For example, in 5G and Huawei case, Huawei kind of became one of the key companies in developing 5G standard, and kind of pushback it got made it evident that other countries are not going to just sit back and take this lightly. Third, I think, would be this over standardization as a barrier, because when you talk about making a standard process for everything, you also create a barrier for new companies or new ideas to develop, because it might just happen that not all companies or startups can comply with such high standards which they want to achieve, because you also need, if you're developing something, you also need this space to make mistakes, for example, or learn through your mistakes. So this is just something which I feel might happen. So entry barrier would be a huge thing for a new firm. So might stifle innovation, which is kind of booming in China currently. So this then makes me wonder, for example, they do succeed in to some extent at least. What changes we could see if they succeed? Like, what do you think if they actually succeed in this? Like, I'm skeptical, but again, what might happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is skeptical about what their plans are. But we shouldn't rule out if the possibility of them kind of succeeding in this whole path towards being the global leader in technical standardization. So, if they manage to kind of succeed, let's say in the next decade or so, it will give them several benefits. First of all, it's historically Chinese firms have been unable to translate their domestic and national standards into kind of global ones, especially in strategic areas, which kind of has put certain limits on their influence in global economy and in geopolitical terms. But if technical standards are set by China or even by Chinese government backed firms, it makes this we can see from Huawei, as you mentioned, right? There was a huge pushback. There were bans on Huawei equipment in US, in the UK, even in Canada, and especially all the Western allies kind of have this fear that if they succeed, that they might kind of take over their market space, which is kind of true because standards gets you the opportunity to grab that market space and get that economic benefit which is on offer. And that is something we can see in the next decade if the Chinese government manages to actually push this project through. And other than that, it would be a major win for the Communist Party itself because this would kind of help the Chinese government achieve its national goal of building a very robust standardization process in the country. As I had mentioned, the first law which came out in 1989 was highly bureaucratic, and it made like zero sense in the way that there were so many standards being set and everything was concentrated at the hands of the central government. Now, what they're trying to do is kind of bring in private firms to work along with the government in setting these technical standards. And this can result in kind of a dual standard system, which can be adopted by the country. So they can have a separate group of technical standards meant to protect just these domestic industries and prevent kind of hostile takeover by external competitors. But other technical standards can be in these strategic sectors like critical and emerging technologies such as 5G, AI, quantum, and others, which could actually advance its geopolitical ambitions and economic gains. Now, for China to achieve that, it is a long road ahead. But if they kind of manage to do that, that means that they would actually end up, ensuring domestic economic growth as well as getting geopolitical influence, both just through technical standards. And that is something which which people are fearing, at least policymakers in the US government and in Europe, who have largely been the forerunners in setting technical standards. So, what they feel now is that with China entering the space, they might have to kind of compete with the same level of innovation that Chinese firms have, and kind of might create another divide. So, we shouldn't rule out China yet, but it is a bit ambitious of them to put so many goals in the outline document itself. So we have to just look forward and look into the future and see what they can actually achieve. So that's my take. So what do you think, Megha? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so I think I'll just add one small thing. Apart from international and geopolitical goals, I think it's also important for their own domestic industries. I think we also mentioned this somewhere. So I'll just want to re-highlight this, that I think one of the reasons they will push for this project is because they want to reform their own industry and own economy. So even if they don't achieve this lofty international goals, I think on domestic front that might be a good news for them, their own industry at least.
Yeah, I mean that's a very well made point. Yeah. So thanks, Megha. Yeah, we had a very interesting discussion. I hope all our listeners liked it. So yeah, let's see you guys in the next episode of All Things Policy. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you liked our show, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can tune into them on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow IVM on social media. The handle is @IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hey, if you'd like to dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs, check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Do you like true crime stories? Do you like to learn about the people behind some horrible, awful crimes? More specifically, women that may have committed these crimes. Actually, Indian criminals that are women? Then we'd like to welcome you to our podcast, Misconduct. My name is Raghavi. And I am Nisha. We cover themes like murder, dacoity, drug trafficking, financial fraud, kidnapping, and many more. You can catch us every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcast.